And now at 5:30, a state watchdog is demanding an ethics investigation into the regulators who decide what you pay for power. It comes after the I-team uncovered frequent communications between a state regulator and utility executive while deciding on rate hikes. Your chief investigative reporter, Sam Spank, is here with the details on this. Sam.
Stephanie, the Connecticut Citizen Action Group wants to know why then PURA Commissioner Michael Caron and Avangrid executive Ted Novicki were speaking so often. They want the state Office of Ethics to investigate.
It was an incredibly important story because these are the stories that need to be told.
Helen Humphreys with the Connecticut Citizen Action Group is reacting to an I-team investigation in June that showed then PURA Commissioner Michael Caron routinely spoke with Avangrid's Senior Director of Regulatory Affairs, Ted Novicki. Avangrid owns United Illuminating. The Connecticut Citizen Action Group is a nonprofit and lobbying organization that covers issues from healthcare to consumer protection to electricity, anything affecting taxpayers. This communication between Caron and Novicki was happening during the month-and-a-half period at a time when PURA was deciding a rate case. PURA had just released a draft decision. Then PURA chairwoman Marissa Gillette resigned. The final decision awarded UI $37 million more than what was suggested in the draft. The decision came from just Commissioners Michael Caron and David Arconti on October 28th. Arconti is a former Avangrid lobbyist. Because of this decision, the average customer's bill rose between $10 to $13 per month, starting in November 2025 through October 2026. Records show 10 phone calls between Caron and Novicki on Caron's office line, with an additional 9 phone calls between their cell phones in October. PURA's rules don't prohibit commissioners and regulators from talking. They just can't discuss a contested case. All utility rate cases are considered contested. To be clear, the I-team does not know what Caron and Avangrid's Novicki discussed.
We're asking for the state of Connecticut to investigate not only the communications between Ted Novicki and Michael Caron, but we're also asking for PURA to reconsider the decision around Avangrid, as we're not sure how these decisions were made since they were done in the dark.
Caron and Novicki both declined to go on camera for our original investigation, but both said they did nothing wrong. In response to the calls for an ethics investigation, in a new statement, Caron said, "My previous statement continues to be valid. I still have done nothing wrong or improper, and I continue to abide by the state's ethics laws as I always have." An Avangrid spokesperson said through email there was no improper communication, adding the conversations followed then Chairwoman Marissa Gillette's decision to step down earlier. In a new statement, an Avangrid spokesperson said that a request for an investigation is not evidence of wrongdoing and that the communications at issue were routine in nature. They added there is no evidence to suggest otherwise. Humphreys tells the I-team the Citizen Action Group believes there are reforms both the state legislature and PURA can make to make the process more transparent for ratepayers. They think the state needs to do more rigorous reviews of UI and Eversource, their costs, their decision-making, to decide whether they should still be the state's choice as an electricity provider.
And so every 15 years, they should come to the state and be reviewed of whether or not they can continue to be the utility monopoly, and municipalities can decide whether or not they want to find someone else to deliver their electricity.
They also want the Office of Consumer Counsel, an independent state agency that advocates for ratepayers, to be granted subpoena power, and for PURA to redo their website to be more user-friendly and accessible.
We also think that all communications between PURA regulators and utility executives need to be out in the open. We shouldn't have to file Freedom of Information Act requests or have a lawyer come in and find out how these decisions are made.
Humphrey says the state needs to force the utilities and PURA to be more transparent so customers aren't left in the dark. The group also wants to end the revolving door, as they call it, asking for legislation that forbids legislators and those who worked for agencies like PURA from going to work for the utilities and vice versa. Caron left PURA in December. He has now registered as a lobbyist. He said he has no plan to solicit any clients that would have business before PURA in the future, and there is a rule that said he cannot lobby anyone at PURA for at least 1 year. We reached out to PURA. They said in a statement that PURA's budget and regulations are subject to legislative oversight, and PURA is open to any and all legislative initiatives that can improve our systems and processes for the benefit of utility customers. In a statement, the Office of Consumer Counsel said they will continue to work with all stakeholders engaged in PURA proceedings to help ensure the decision-making process is open, accountable, and in the best interests of Connecticut's ratepayers. PURA revisited the October rate case already, they say. In March, the updated decision gave UI around $2 million more than originally approved. The reasons why can be found in a copy of the decision on our website. Your chief investigative reporter, Sam Spink, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.